This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Friday morning. We're wrapping up another week and we're wrapping it up as we go into a very big stakes weekend, and we'll be talking all about it. We have Ron Nicoletti coming on as usual a little bit later to talk some Gulfstream racing, get some thoughts for today, but certainly we'll look out at that nice card tomorrow, Fountain of Youth, Devona Dale and whatnot. We'll cover that again. Really nice card down at Gulfstream tomorrow. Another nice card over at Fairgrounds on Saturday as well. And towards the bottom of our hour, 10:30 or so, Brian Spencer from the Fairgrounds. Again, we'll get some thoughts for today, but also look out at the Rachel Alexandra and the Risen Star tomorrow at Fairgrounds. And then we'll wind up our hour with Brian Nadeau of HorsePlayerNow.com. Going to get some of his thoughts also on some of that 3-year-old stakes action this weekend, but also promo a little bit. He'll be in here this afternoon. And don't forget, here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Today is the happy hour bankroll. 25 lucky patrons will get selected at random to participate in the $500 bankroll and play during the afternoon along with Brian Nadeau. That's today at the Clubhouse Racebook. Also, other events coming up in the waning few days of February. Tomorrow is the Showviver contest, capitalotb.com. Also, right here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Come on down, perhaps you will get a chance to spin the prize wheel. It's prize wheel day down at the Clubhouse Racebook. Randomly selected customers get a chance to spin for some prizes. Again, that's here at the Clubhouse Racebook tomorrow. The Sunday Syndicate Bankroll via the Capital OTB website. That comes up this Sunday. And then again, all month long we've been doing it, and it will continue on Monday. $100 Knockout Challenge based on Aqueduct Racing this Monday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Do also want to remind you that coming up just as soon as the calendar page turns, if you're participating in the Capital OTB Handicapping Series, and if you haven't, you should be, but the next event up happens March 1st, so keep that in mind. It's a week from Saturday, March 1st, the Shamrock Showdown, $100 entry fee, and as usual, all the entry fees go right back into the prize pool, maximum of 3 entries. You can sign up online or right here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Find out more information at capitalotb.com. This is kind of interesting. They put this news out over the past, day or so. But if you're a fan of the CBS series Survivor, and I have to admit, I used to watch. I watched the first couple of seasons, and a lot of these reality shows I've lost interest in, but I may tune back in. This season's Survivor, and the new season starts this coming Wednesday, but it includes a Tampa Bay Downs-based trainer. A trainer I'm not that familiar with, Leon McManus, and from his photograph, he looks like a fairly young guy, but he's part of the cast of this season's Survivor. He's quoted in the article as saying he was a fan of the show for years, and he thought he would be good at it, loves the outdoors, and just thought he would be a fit for Survivor, and so he winds up on the series. As I say, I'm not that familiar with him as a trainer, but it notes in the article he's fairly new to training horses, just took out his license last year, won 10 of 73 starts, so didn't have a lot of starts in 2013, but did pretty well, it seems like. So far at the current Tampa Bay meet, he's 0 for 17, but he is back training. The Survivor Series has wrapped up, but as is usual, the producers of the series put a tight grip on the cast members not to let out anything about what the results were of the season. And so Leon is not letting on how well he did. But if you're a fan of Survivor, or perhaps even if you aren't, as I say, I may have to tune in this season just to see how he does. Leon McManus, Tampa Bay Downs-based trainer, will be on the series. A little article about it in the Blood Horse, too, with some more quotes for him, if you want a little more background on that. You could kind of see this coming, some bad news down at Fairgrounds, but again, you could see it coming. And reading this article, I wonder if we don't have some other shoes to drop perhaps across the country. But Fairgrounds has cut their overnight purses by 10%. You know, purses based on handle, and the handle at Fairgrounds certainly losing some dates, but losing a lot of turf racing because of the wet weather and the bad drainage on their turf track. That certainly has to have affected handle, and in turn, now they've cut purses by 10%. But the article in the Blood Horse also quotes the representatives from Fairgrounds as saying the extreme weather prevented people across the country from getting to their favorite parlor or OTB, and it shows. And I'm, as I say, I'm going to be curious if maybe there are some other shoes to drop over the next few weeks or so as maybe that plays out. I think Fairgrounds was really affected by what happened there, the weather, and as I say, losing some dates and losing turf racing, having fields scratched down to unattractively small fields perhaps, and I think that really affected them. But there has been some crazy weather, some cold weather, some snow that probably did prevent people from getting out and playing as vigorously as they normally would have. So again, it'll be interesting to see how much the weather east of the Mississippi this winter has affected some of the other tracks, and if we hear some other announcements like this. But so far, Fairgrounds cutting their purses 10%. And this is a story that we touched on last week, in fact, with John DeSilva. There was I had handicapped Gulfstream and seen a couple of instances where Frank Calabrese horse had been moved, had raced for Kirk Zaidi in the previous race, and now was going out for Gamaliel Vasquez. And when we talked to John DeSilva last week, he had the info that, in fact, Frank Calabrese had fired Kirk Zaidi, and that's confirmed in a Blood Horse article over the past day or so. Calabrese said Kirk did a good job, but we had some differences of opinion, and I fired him. And as we talked about with John DeSilva, this may be almost an MO for Frank Calabrese. He is a very high-profile owner, wins a lot of races, has a lot of horses. Typically, a lot of his runners over the years have been in the Chicago area, but he moves around, and Zaidi was training for him down in Florida, and some other venues as well. But when I had Gulfstream maybe a week and a half or so ago and saw the Zaidi name in the previous start, Gamaliel Vasquez, at that point I just wasn't sure if maybe Zaidi was on a suspension or something and had gone to an assistant, something like that. But as I say, John DeSilva had the info last week that Calabrese had fired him, and that's what it turns out to be. And again, he's one of these guys, Calabrese, a high-profile owner, very involved, and we've seen it before. A lot of these guys are so involved that there seems to be a higher than normal, perhaps, turnover with their trainers. And when we talked about it last week, I put in the analogy of George Steinbrenner in baseball. The guys who are very involved, they have egos, and so in baseball we saw managers come and go with the Yankees, and it's the same with some of these guys like Calabrese on the horse ownership side. So Zaidi out, and Gamaliel Vasquez in. As we noted, talking about it last week, Gamaliel Vasquez, when I first saw that name, it rang a bell, and I looked it up, and sure enough, he had been tied in a few years ago with the controversial owner, Michael Gill. Had started a lot of horses for Gill and won a lot of races. But since then, maybe a little bit more under the radar, but now training for Frank Calabrese. Good article in the Racing Forum by Steve Christ. You can look that up. Tread wearing thin on the synthetic era. Talked about this already earlier this week with Del Mar stepping away from synthetics. They're looking to put in dirt starting in 2015, and I was on with my Loose on the Lead partner, Steve Bick, on Wednesday on his radio show, and we talked about this. And I made the case there that it's unfortunate if the Del Mar stepping away from synthetics puts the whole kibosh on the synthetic era. And that's kind of the way the Christ article is playing out. Now, Christ is making more of a point of Keeneland is really an island unto themselves now as far as top-level tracks sticking with synthetics, and with some of their high-profile graded events being run on their main track, Poly track, they're kind of losing some of their luster and some of their reputation, perhaps. So he's making the point that it wouldn't be surprising to see Keeneland even go to dirt sometime sooner rather than later. But again, when I talked on the radio show, talked here earlier this week, Golden Gate, certainly with their Tapeta, Presque Isle with their Tapeta. I think Turfway over the years, this year, just the winter has been so free that it didn't quite hold up that way. But Turfway over the years, I think their synthetic surface has been beneficial in the wintertime. And I made the point, and as we were having this conversation on the radio show, Steve Vick said what I think a lot of people feel, and that was kind of so long to synthetics and good riddance. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And he made the great point that it didn't play out the way it was sold. And I totally agree with that. If you go back to when synthetics were first being pitched to the racing industry, it was safety. It was a lot of cost savings. It was pitched as almost maintenance free, and it hasn't turned out to be that. And as far as safety, I think you can make cases back and forth. And I talked a little bit on the radio show. We've seen these statistics comparing synthetics to traditional dirt tracks over the past couple of years. And my criticism of those comparisons were the synthetic surfaces are still fairly new. And I think if you compare the synthetic track to a dirt track that was put in brand new, things may turn out very differently. And we talked on the radio, in fact, about some of these tracks over the years and when they've pulled up the cushion and gone down to the clay underneath. That's where some of the problems are. And that the wear and tear over years puts dents and divots into that clay underneath. And that then is what translates to the cushion and causes some problems. And so tracks every once in a while have to pull up that and really redo the surface, meaning that as a dirt track ages, there's more of a chance that there will be some of those errors in the surface that cause some of the unfortunate incidents, whereas most of these synthetic surfaces were fairly new that we were gaining statistics on. Well, now you look out and you read a little bit about this Del Mar situation, and they say this track is kind of falling apart a little bit because of age and probably is going to have to be replaced one way or the other, synthetic or dirt. So I think we're finding that even synthetics over time maybe don't hold up the way you would want as far as a safety factor. So it was being pitched early on, cost savings as far as maintenance, and again, we've seen that's certainly not the case at these various venues, and also the safety factor. And so as Bick and I were talking, I was agreeing on those things. Safety and cost savings, I'm not sure that's holding up over time, at least as well as it was being pitched to the industry. But my thing is, if you go over to Europe, the synthetics are defined as all-weather surfaces. And I think they deserve a legitimate place in the industry as that. I think there are some tracks around the country that could benefit from synthetic surfaces because of the weather, because of the time of the year they run. And again, that Tapeta surface at Golden Gate and at Presque Isle has been very good. And as I say, the Turfway surface, because of the wintertime, I think typically has been pretty good. This winter has been a little bit dicey. But I'm just hoping that the industry as a whole maybe steps back and says, you know what, there's a place for this. It may be a little more of a niche than we originally thought. I'd hate to see it go away because I do think synthetics, again, on a weather issue, have a place in the industry, but we'll see. Again, Steve Chris addresses Del Mar's decision and how that may affect the industry in his latest article. All right, we're going to head to our break now. When we come back, we will be joined by Ron Nicoletti of Gulfstream Park. A little later on, Brian Spencer of the Fairgrounds, and we'll wind things up with Brian Nadeau of HorsePlayerNow.com. A lot of discussion about a great upcoming weekend of stakes action. All of that right after this.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB Television Network.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Wagering at CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right. The 2014 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes, and a seat at the 2015 Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month's contest is the Shamrock Showdown on March 1st. So sign up today, online at CapitalOTB.com, or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook.
I'm Anthony Mormino. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Very happy to be joined now by Ron Nicoletti of Gulfstream Park. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning.
And in a moment, we're going to get into what is really a blockbuster Saturday down at Gulfstream. Before we do that, we'll get a couple of thoughts on today, though. But before we do any of that, why don't you give us a little weather update today and tomorrow? What's it look like down in your area?
Let's see, what's a good word? Perfect. It's really been lovely down here. You know, it's getting up to the low 80s in the afternoon. In the mornings, it's cool. And I didn't hear of any rain expected. You know, always a cloud could come over. But we're dealing with that fast main track firm turf course. And, of course, $1.1 million in the Rainbow Six carryover. So everybody's a little goofy down here, you know. Don't know if they'll hit it today. But a couple of times this week we've had guys alive in the last race. So always a lot of fun when that thing gets up past $1 million.
I've taken some shots. I've said it all week long. Once it got up to about 600,000, everybody seemed to get juiced up, and it's the pool has moved progressively since then. Now you're up over $1 million, and I've said 20-cent base wager, and even the consos are really nice.
Consos have been great.
Yeah.
We had one the other day, 88,000. I mean, it was tough to hit, but still, you know, winning the whole thing is sort of like hitting a lottery, you know. But you can actually do some good with the 20-cent wager and hit just 6 or 6 and share it with a few people.
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, these jackpot bets are so counterintuitive. I don't expect to hit be the single guy. But once it gets over $1 million, as I say, those consos are enough for 20 cents. You can put a little decent little price ticket in and have a shot. So it's a lot of fun. And again, we'll keep our fingers crossed that somebody doesn't hit it today, because going into tomorrow's card, it's going to take a lot of attention from around the country. You
know, we got a big better guy here that last week, one of the days, if you bet every race, every horse in every race, it was $24,000. It was one of those days where we didn't have a lot of entries, and he was going to do it, and he didn't do it, and that was the day he paid 5 of the 6, so he would have had the whole ticket for $24,000. The point I'm making is, if I think he was going to pay $300,000 or $400,000, the point I'm making is these big guys are in here now, so you got to sort of think of getting just sharing the pool with the 6 of 6.
Yeah, exactly. The whales have arrived. All right, Ron. Before we get to tomorrow, let's give folks a little idea on this afternoon. You've got the late double in your sights. The 9th race today. Optional claimer, 62 tags, non-winners of 2 other than. They're going 1 1/8 on the turf. How'd you see it?
Well, I got my best bet in the 9th race, and it's the White Rose, the number 6. This one, 3 for 3 in the money at 9 furlongs. 2 for 2 in the money right here at Gulfstream Park on the turf. Makes her first start. She was facing graded stakes competition. She was going 12 furlongs in the Long Island Handicap. That's a grade 2. 10 in the Flower Bowl, a grade 1. That was 10 furlongs. Billy Mott, Johnny Velasquez. Just think this is a horse where somewhere along the line in that Rainbow Six, you might want to have this as your single in there. You know, it's a classy daughter of Tapit. So I'm thinking number 6, White Rose, might be one of those horses you want to single. And I also used the 5, Bold Kitten, and the 2, Antonio Autumn in that race. That's Christophe Command. Hard to leave him out. So
yeah, this is a nice little race. You got some stakes performers, as you say, White Rose, Bold Kitten. We didn't mention Galloping Giraffe from Pletcher, another horse that's been in stakes company. That's a fun little 9th race today.
Yeah.
All right, 10th race is a maiden special. They are 3-year-old fillies. They're going to go 5 furlongs on the grass. What you see here?
I went with the one Lovely. It's a daughter of Pulpit making her career turf debut after finishing. She was a trouble third. She was in tight quarters. It was a 5-furlong race that was moved to a sealed sloppy track. James Jerkin is now the trainer and keeps leading Jock Javier Castellano handling that inside post today. And number 5, Scat Capade is a daughter of Scat Daddy from Christophe Clement and the 4 Chief Dante. So figured I'd use those 3 in the last. I mean, they're going to be part of my little Rainbow 6 ticket that I put together.
Yeah, Scat Capade attracts my attention. Christophe Clement first out of the box with a Scat Daddy on the turf. That one looks a little bit interesting. I love those kind of races where you suss out a little bit on the breeding and the connections and whatnot.
And the horse was working well at Payson Park, too, so that's encouraging.
All right, let's get into that Saturday card. Wow, I mean, this is a real blockbuster. And let's start right with the highlight of the day, and we'll kind of work our way back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But tomorrow, the Fountain of Youth, Grade 2 event, $400,000 purse. These, of course, are 3-year-olds, and boy, I mean, this one, mile and a 16th, and just looking here, We Miss Artie. Medal Count, who had a little bit of buzz as a Wise Guy horse going into the Breeders' Juvenile last year. That didn't wind up to pan out, but came back with a turf win last time out. Wildcat bred, General AWAD, and then you get it to the outside, and of course you got Top Billing in here. Ron, while we talk about this, I'm going to pull up the optional claiming allowance race from January 3rd. We're going to watch the win by Commissioner in the 3rd career start. Debuted at Monmouth for Todd Pletcher and finished second by 8 that day, but then came up to Saratoga, stretched out to a mile and an 1/8 and won. Followed up with this race we're going to watch here. We're going to watch the stretch run of this race, and Commissioner will be the number 6 horse. And this was the day and the race that Commissioner and number 5, Top Billing, had that ding-dong battle. They're both in here. Top Billing subsequently broke or won after that as well. They're certainly going to attract a lot of attention, but boy, it is a loaded field in the Fountain of Youth.
Yeah, it's a loaded field, and Commissioner really stamped himself as a major force, on the road to the Florida Derby with that victory that you're showing there. But Top Billing was right there, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the show. I thought Top Billing got the worst of that race.
Yeah.
Then Top Billing comes back and is just totally, dominating in his performance. He looked like he was he just comes flying, makes a 4-wide bid, to win. So I do the morning line here. So I was like, was it Commissioner or was it Top Billing? I wanted to make Top Billing the top choice, but I had to go with Commissioner because that, mile in the 16th here, it's tough to win from the outside. Over the last 5 years, it's not exact, but the win percentage is about 2% when you go past post 11. So it's hard to win at mile 16. We've got a short run to the first turn. Otherwise, I'd have, them reversed in there, Commissioner and Top Billing.
And you talk about that race that we just watched, and Top Billing gets the worst of it. It was kind of interesting out of that race. Shug McGahee didn't seem as agitated as he might have been, as a normal trainer might be with a race like that. But then subsequently you realize, he's got another shot at that condition, and he comes back at that condition last time and wins pretty nice. So his horse now has 3 starts under the belt. He could stick in that condition rather than going in a tougher stakes race. And so it may have all worked out well for Shug McGahee and Top Billing coming out of that event.
Yeah, he had a big smile on his face after that race because of that exact reason. But the Wise Guy horse that everybody's talking around, as you mentioned, one is the 5 General A-Rod is making his stakes debut at this mile and a 16th. He had a stretch-long duel that produced a victory in the Gulfstream Park Derby, and the jockey and trainer Combo Castellano, they're winning races here at a 40% rate, and everybody, this is a pretty good performance by that horse last time out. So I'm thinking, with the good post position there, right in the middle, General A-Rod might be a little bit of a sneaky, and not that he's a big sneak, he's 5-1 on the morning line. So
I'm also looking at Wildcat Red. On the stretch out. I don't know, this is probably not a Derby horse, probably not a 1.25 miles, but at a 1 1/16 off of that Hutchison, he looks a little bit interesting to me as well. And it's just a loaded race.
Yeah, he'll be running and gunning as soon as they pop the grate. And if he wins, you just have to look at the owner of this thing. He had a purple suit on last time when they won the Hutchison with his shirt open to the bottom button with all sorts of gold things. It was absolutely fantastic. So as far as the beauty contest goes, if the 4 Wildcat Red wins, everybody everybody out there, watch the winner's outfit.
There we go. Good tip. All right. Let's go a little earlier on the card. The Devona Dale. This year, the 3-year-old fillies, $200,000 purse, grade 2, again, a mile and a 16th. And Ron, while we talk, I think we're going to look at absolutely the horse to beat in here. We're going to go back to the Forward Gal and Todd Pletcher's Only For You. Only For You now 3 for 3 in the career. They've all been daylight wins. Castellano back on board tomorrow. And again, it just looks like they have to go through Only For You in the Devona Dale.
Yeah, Only For You, and I mean the only real challenge it looks like it might come from, the 8-horse Stop Charging Maria. Don't know what it says on the PPs, but the early PPs, the 6-horse in there, Penwith, will race with first-time Lasix. So I didn't have that in my analysis when I did it. I heard that he's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be announced on the day or the later PPs have that, and I think that's something you should know, and that's the 6. Penwith beating the neck by Stop Shopping Maria and the Demoiselle. So this horse has been right there. But you're right. Only For You looks like absolutely the one, the big Pletcher, Javier Castellano going for 4 in a row.
And Penwith, notable, first Lasix, is Karen McLaughlin entirely.
If that is the case, that's what I heard. Just, when I was whispering, said, hey, do you know that Penwith has first-time Lasix? I said, no, I did not. So I will be checking into that. But make sure everybody out there listening pays attention to that because he's been unconscious with first-time Lasix.
Yeah, absolutely. Take a closer look at that if that is the case. All right, and Ron, I certainly want to, obviously a big stakes weekend down there, but we have a couple other notable events. Earlier on the card, the 4th race is the Return of Normandy Invasion. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch, but I definitely want to get your opinion on this 6th tomorrow, the Allowance Optional Claimer. I mean, this would be a grade 3 at most tracks. We have in here Matterhorn for Todd Pletcher. We have Constitution also from Pletcher. And we have Tonalist is a horse that I think is really interesting for Christophe Clement, as well as Mexicoma for Rick Matee and Team Valor. This 6th race, again, really loaded, a lot of fun. And at least 1 or 2 of these, if not more, will come out and certainly be Triple Crown type pointed horses. What are your thoughts in the 6th tomorrow?
Well, I actually went with the 3 horses that you mentioned, Constitution, the 8 Tonalist, and the 10 Mexicoma. Constitution was the talk of the track. If you looked at his last race, he rebounded from a really poor start.
And we're watching that right now.
Oh, you're watching that, right? He had a poor start, and he came flying at the end. Javier Castellano, it's a $400,000 son of Tappet, and absolutely right about the 8-horse Tonalist. But Constitution I put on top of the ticket, and he's just maybe a little behind everybody else, but he's certainly going to be, in stakes very soon if he runs well in his next start. Tonalist and Mexicoma is interesting. He makes his sophomore debut. His race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile wasn't that bad. He was only beaten 3 3/4 lengths, and Joel Rosario atop the son of Birdstone. So just one of those races on the card that we have here. It's going to be exciting, and that's but right before the Rainbow Six starts. So you're going to have to deal with that one in the Rainbow Six, but just a great day of racing.
Yeah, because that's when you're at least 4 deep in there if you were playing. So it's nice that maybe you don't have to pay attention to that one. And finally, let's just go and get some quick thoughts on the Canadian Turf Grade 3 going a mile. And again, it's a nice field, right? Right a look for Gary Contessa. Ended the season in a disappointing fashion last year, but early on just showed so much promise. So often an August layoff could be a little bit interesting on the comeback here. Horses like Guy's Reward and Joe Ha. What were your thoughts on the Canadian Turf?
I went with the one Mr. Online, but before we get to Mr. Online, Right of Luck schooled yesterday looked absolutely fantastic. He was out there schooling, and he looked great. And I thought last year he was going to be something special, and just looks like he doesn't like a turf course with any soft going, and it certainly doesn't look like he's going to get any soft going here tomorrow. But with that said, I went with Mr. Online, who's never been better when he goes for his 3rd consecutive victory at the distance and 4th consecutive victory in a row. He's great stake place. He's got Kendrick Garamouche, I like saying that name, going for the 4-peat. So I put him on top of the ticket. I mean, he might be not class up as much as these, but I just think he's going great guns. He's got the inside, and I went with the 6 Salto in 2nd, who beat Mr. Online in the $100,000 El Prado, and then Unbridled Ocean. But if on my Rainbow Six ticket, the way Ryder Luck looked yesterday, got to put him somewhere on the ticket.
Again, I'm with you. Early on, he looked pretty good. He wound up the season a little bit disappointing, but these are the kind that I think they get a break like this and they can come back. A little added maturity could be interesting. So you throw in, he looked good schooling.
Fantastic.
Very good. All right, Ron, as always, we appreciate the visit. Thanks for the thoughts this afternoon as well as tomorrow. Good good luck to everybody down at Gulfstream putting on a nice card, and we'll be watching and enjoying. We'll talk a little bit about some of these races on the recap next week. But again, thanks for the visit this morning.
Take care, guys.
All right, Ron Nicoletti from Gulfstream Park. We will visit with Brian Spencer at the fairgrounds and talk about their big Saturday right after this.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Casano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Funding your Capital OTB Bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today. Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
And welcome back to Racing Across America. Happy to be joined now by Brian Spencer from the Fairgrounds. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. And big card tomorrow. We'll get some thoughts on that in a moment, as well as some thoughts for this afternoon. Before we do that, just give us a little update on the weather today and tomorrow.
Well, last night we were expecting some storms and a lot of rain. It does not appear that it rained a whole lot based on what I could see around town this morning. Weather's beautiful. It's sunny, probably up in the 70s today, finally kind of snapping out of that sort of atypical New Orleans winter we were having there for a while.
And before we get into today and tomorrow, I just want to go back to last weekend, touch on that maiden special you had on Sunday. Samantha Nicole, the full sibling to Rachel Alexandra. Give us your impressions of her. I guess it was a little bit of a finished second, but in a troubled trip. So given that, I think it was an okay second place finish.
Yeah, I think sort of the entire process was a little bit disappointing. She was acting up quite a bit in the paddock. She was not very well. She was not handling herself well in advance of the race, and then she broke slowly, was last, and she just has kind of a big, awkward, almost stride, and I think that left her with a lot to do, and the horse who ran away from that nice pressing spot, Handmade, looked very good, got the jump on her, but Samantha Nicole made a little bit of a move around the far turn. She was really up against it in a short field, soft splits, and maybe next time out a little bit better behavior in advance of the race and a little bit better break. We'll see something better from her.
Yeah, as I said, given the trouble of now hearing about the pre-race antics as well, an okay second place finish, and it's the kind, it's a debut at 2 turns, which is tough enough. Then you throw in some problems and whatnot. So we'll look for her going forward. Again, that's Rachel Alexander's full sibling, Samantha Nicole. Same connection, Stone Street and Asmussen. And Brian, I also have to tip my cap to you and the folks at Fairgrounds. I was watching the simulcast signal the other day and thoroughly enjoyed the Wiener races, which track announcer was deadpanning that the whole way with the pre-race prattle of, and here is Sausage. His likes are chasing squirrels, and as they loaded him into the gate, but it looked like a fun event down there at the Fairgrounds.
Yeah, it was goofy and it was meant to be so, but it was actually a lot of fun. And John Dooley, I just throughout the entire thing was just saying Dooley's so great with this. He was just having a really good time, taking it a little too seriously, I think.
some setup events and then the finals as well in between races on the card. It was a lot of fun. All right, let's get some thoughts for this afternoon. Third race today is optional claimer starter allowance, 15 at the claiming level, 7 at the starter allowance level. These are 4-year-olds and up. They're scheduled on the turf at 5.5. What were your thoughts in the third?
I thought that the number 6 Ronson may actually be able to take him gate to wire here. First off, the claim last time out showed good speed, almost too good. Ran off a little bit around the turn at 16-1, but he dug in nicely into mid-stretch. He ended up 5th, but he was beaten just over a length in that spot. I think there's a little bit of other speed signed on here, but he's probably quickest. He probably gets to the front. He gets in a little bit light again under Ashley Broussard, and I think maybe with that first turf try under his belt, he seems to have found his way back to his top form from earlier in his career.
And give us some thoughts on the Apprentice. 5-pound allowance, so this is a 5-pound bug. I'm looking at the meet statistics here, 100 starts, 6 wins, but 13 seconds and 11 thirds. So hitting the board pretty regularly.
And a lot of those are, as you would probably expect, with very big prices. She's been able to take, she's probably a total of 2 lengths away from 3 more $100 upsets. She's been very good with those horses on the front end. Turf has sort of been the little bit of a question mark. Maybe she'll be able to get her first turf win here today with Ronson, but I think that she's been riding very well considering what she's been sitting on.
And I always say, these are exactly the kind of scenarios I like with apprentices, because it's just when the gates open, go. And so there's not a lot of thought or strategy. So I like speed horses with apprentices. All right, the 5th race today, another optional claimer, starter allowance, 30 tags, 17 at the starter allowance level, 4-year-olds and up. Again, they're on the turf, but this time a 1.16 miles.
And hoping that the trend from yesterday on the turf course holds, depending on how the rain played in. I'm not sure exactly how much we got here locally, but as I mentioned, it didn't seem like a lot. Speed was very, very good yesterday on the turf, and I like the number 7 Midnight Heist coming off of a really horrible try on a sloppy main track, but reunited with Sean Bridgman here, has done very well on the turf in the past, looks to be the controlling speed in this spot, and I just think sort of that combination of all of those things coming back together could give Midnight Heist a big chance at a big price. My only real concern, which is why I want to be sure I get a square price here, is that he's been away since December 28th and shows only 1 published work since.
Yeah, I think that will combine to hold up the odds, however, and the last one certainly darkens the form. But again, that was over a sloppy track. The return to turf could provide a nice rebound. But again, given the scenario, get the odds to take a little shot with that one. All right, let's look out at the nice card for tomorrow, because again, we looked at the Gulfstream card earlier. It's nice over there, but you guys at the fairgrounds also have put together a nice string of stakes races. Let's start out looking at the Rachel Alexandra. And Brian, while we talk about this, pulled up some video going back to a maiden race on January 29th over at Gulfstream. We're going to watch the number 4, Got Lucky, Get It Done, for Todd Pletcher as the 2-5 favorite that day. Got Lucky comes into this now with 3 races, a couple of second-place finishes, and that win that we're going to watch the stretch run of. And interestingly enough, Mike Smith comes in and gets the ride. Mike Smith in for a few rides at Fairgrounds. He picks up Got Lucky. Obviously, the horse that's going to attract a lot of attention in here is Rhea Antonia. To me, she's one that may be worth taking a little bit of a shot against. 9-2 on the morning line. I'll be interested to see what the betting public does, but I'm just not convinced about her yet. So Rhea Antonia will take some action, certainly, but I think the shipper for Pletcher is interesting as well. What were your thoughts on the Rachel Alexandra?
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens with Rhea Antonia also, because I don't think, from my betting and handicapping perspective, I think that I'm similar to a lot of people where I'm still very sort of questioning the quality of her and how she was, whether she's able to duplicate that Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies effort. So that's a big question for me. A horse who got over the track very nicely last time out after racing on the turf throughout her entire career was number 3, Shannon Nicole. And I know that this is a big class jump up. You got a Grade 1 winner drawn inside of her. You've got Lucky, who's Grade 2 placed. Rhea Antonia is a Grade 1 winner. But Shannon Nicole looks like a completely different horse, beating a very good field that I think for the level was actually very, very solid. And maybe she just has been meant for the dirt this whole time. I think she'll sit the right trip, and she's got a chance at a price.
Yeah, and sometimes those horses are kind of interesting. They think they've got them figured out, and they start the career on one surface, and then a situation like this, an off-the-turf event, all of a sudden, hey, maybe we had this one figured out out wrong. We also didn't mention Bob Baffert shipping in with streaming, and streaming could be kind of interesting as well. All right, let's look out now at the Risen Star. This is the 3-year-old event coming up a little bit later on that card tomorrow. And again, boy, this is a loaded event. Albano, the sibling to Mark Valesky, Rise Up coming in off the Delta Downs jackpot win back in November. Bondholder has scratched. The plane trip did not suit Bondholder, so Bondholder is out. A horse that I'm really interested in, Gold Hawk. I'm going to give him a pass on that last one. I want to see what he does tomorrow, and hopefully he jumps up for me. Opportunity for Bob Baffert ships in, and then we go to the outside. And, of course, Vickers in Trouble is obviously going to attract a lot of attention off of that win last time in the Lecomte. And, in fact, while we talk, we're going to watch the Lecomte. Number 7, Vickers in Trouble, will be the easy winner of this event. Albano, the number 6, and number 4, Gold Hawk, will duel it out down the stretch for the 2nd and 3rd place finishes. So we'll get a look at 3 that are in tomorrow. But what were your thoughts on the Risen Star?
I thought, this tested my handicapping patience. I went back and forth between about 6 or 7 of them, including considering going back to Albano, who I liked a lot, and the Lecomte, who I think maybe a bit better in his second start around 2 turns. Gold Hawk, who, for all of the kind of buzz that he got off this first 2 races, I visually didn't like them quite so much, and I didn't like his Lecomte. I think he's better than that, but couldn't land there. I went with a horse who had a nice trip note on from a Churchill maiden race. That's the number 13, Commanding Curve. One was hung out wide, was away slowly last time, moved into contention, and just made a nice move around the far turn to get into the front in the stretch, and then was able to hold the runner-up, and that runner-up was clear by more than a dozen lengths from the show horse. And I also thought in that 2 and 3 back start, Commanding Curve ran into a couple of tough customers, working like he's ready to fire off the bench, and I think the talent is there. The post is a little bit of a concern, as it obviously is too for Vickers in Trouble, but I think Commanding Curve may be ready to take that next step. And he's listed at 20-1 on the morning line. I was not expecting to get anything close to that, but with the competitiveness in this field, I think it's actually possible.
I do too. I think the odds maybe not 20, but I think they'll be decent, just because of, as you say, the size and the competitiveness of the field. And certainly that's some rooting interest for us. We're friends with the West Point folks, and in fact, I had Tom Bellhouse from West Point on earlier this week talking a little bit about how well they've been doing so far this year. We touched on Commanding Curve a little bit, but also Twilight Eclipse from last week. But again, a little rooting interest for us with Commanding Curve in there. Let's go back and just touch on quickly a couple of the other events on the card. The Fairgrounds Handicap Grade 3 event on the turf. Daddy Knows Best has just been so good down there in the 2 starts so far at the Fairgrounds meet. But Sky Ring, the last few haven't been much, but that's a horse for Wayne Lucas that I think can kind of step up and surprise at any moment. A couple others in there are interesting. What were your thoughts on the turf and the Fairgrounds Handicap?
I took a long look at Sky Ring, ended up kind of throwing him out just based on how bad the last few have been, but he's one of those who's liable to jump up with a big race at any point. I've just been so impressed with the way Daddy Knows Best has run over the local turf course. He was hopelessly buried down on the rail at the top of the stretch last time out, and then Rosie Napravnik did what she does and pulled some magic out of her hat in the final quarter of a mile to get up by a neck. I just think Daddy Knows Best looks solidly best in here.
Yeah, as I say, he's put together a couple already in the Diliberto and the Colonel Bradley, so he does look like the one to beat. I should mention West Point again in this race with Ground Transport. Finally, let's take a look at the Mine Shaft. You have Todd Pletcher and Rapoli with Micromanage. Tommy Amos has Grand Contender. Ground Transport is also cross-entered in here. And Prayer for Relief, who was so good in that Tenacious, and I thought just was set up to run very well in the Louisiana Handicap. A little bit of a disappointment last time out. Wouldn't shock me to see that one bounce back. And a horse I liked a lot last year as a 3-year-old and just never really turned the corner. But Braidster still interests me as well.
Yeah, this is another really good competitive event. I think that Prayer for Relief really holds the cards here. If he bounces back to his top try, I think the rest run for second, and I don't think he's that far off of it, even off of that slightly disappointing effort last out. You've got Ground Transport, who I think took a nice positive step forward last time out, beating a good group, but landed on the number 5, Mr. Mardi Gras. The only question is if he's ready off of the break back to late November when he was second in the Hawthorne Gold Cup. But he's one of those just very, very workman-like type horses who just always goes out, always runs his race. He can run a mile and a quarter. He's effective at a mile. He's effective on the dirt, polytrack, dirt. There's just and turf. I mean, there's everything to like about him. And I think there might be just enough speed in here with horses like Grand Contender and Ground Transport lined up, and maybe even Braidster, to be able to ensure an honest enough pace for his big late kick.
Yeah, again, it is a really, really good card tomorrow at Fairgrounds, highlighted by that Risen Star, as at this time of the year, we're all kind of focused on the Derby Trail and the 3-year-olds, and certainly some logical contenders will come out of that race tomorrow, and maybe some horses that'll be a little bit under the radar that people can focus on as well. Brian, we certainly appreciate the visit. I'll remind people they can find Brian Spencer's selections each and every day at the Fairgrounds Racing website. You can also tune into the simulcast signal and hear his comments before each race from the paddock. Brian, again, appreciate the visit this morning. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thanks, Seth.
Brian Spencer from the Fairgrounds. And that now brings us to our last break of the hour, our second Brian of the hour, Brian Nadeau from HorsePlayerNow.com. Get some of his thoughts on a couple of these 3-year-old races over the weekend as well. All of that right after this.
I'm Jeff Carl. Join me Saturdays and Sundays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the weekend in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekends at 9, only here on the OTB TV network.
I got it. Watch me. I got it. Hey! I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about. I got a move that tells me what to do. If you don't, brothers and sisters, then you won't know what it's all about.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
Using CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Simply log on with your username and password from the homepage. 2. Fund your Capital OTB account through our Easy Money, Green Dot, or Visa MasterCard options. And 3. Place your bet on one of our 3 easy-to-navigate wagering platforms, Capital Bet TV, Capital Bet Express, or Capital Bet Pro. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
This is Steve Beck. Join me Tuesday through Saturday here on OTB TV for At the Races, my Sirius XM daily news magazine of the thoroughbred industry. Handicapping, interviews, analysis, everything you could want. 6 a.m. OTB TV.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, we are joined now by Brian Nadeau of HorsePlayerNow.com. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, Seth. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Very good. And we're going to take a look at some of this action tomorrow, some of the really nice stakes action tomorrow. But before we do that, one of the other reasons I had you on, I wanted to tout and promo the event here at the Clubhouse Racebook this afternoon, give you a little chance to talk about, you'll be in for the happy hour bankroll here. 25 lucky patrons will be selected at random to participate in your $500 bankroll. And give us a little insight in what the action is going to be like this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm going to be down there about 2:30, Seth. So 25 lucky people will be, playing along with me, so to speak, for the bankroll. And, I'm looking forward to it. Last time I did not do too well. The first time before, we ran it up to almost $1,000, so that was good. And hopefully we'll have Aqueduct going today, too, because I've got a few players down there. They canceled last time, which it wasn't too good for me as a New York guy. So hopefully they're going to go today, and, we'll probably be playing some big fours, play some horizontal exotics and stuff like that, because I'd like to try to get it up, make a run at a good score for everyone as opposed to just grinding out, 3 and 4 to 1s all day. So we'll see what we can come up with.
Yeah, as you say, 2 times back you were in here, put together a very nice afternoon. And then last time, you're kind of up against it when you handicapped the night before and then your main track canceled. So you were a little bit up against it last time, but ready to roll this afternoon. Again, that's down here at the Clubhouse Racebook, about the middle of the afternoon, 2:30, 711 Central Avenue, right down here in Albany. All right, Brian, a very nice day of racing tomorrow. I wanted to get some of your thoughts, particularly on some of this 3-year-old action, but we'll dip a little deeper than that as well. First up, though, I wanted to get a look at the Fountain of Youth tomorrow at Gulfstream. And while we talk, Brian, a little earlier on, we took a look at Commissioner as we talked to Ron Nicoletti. That was a horse he liked. I thought, and as I talked to Ron, I mentioned this, I thought Wildcat Red might be interesting tomorrow. We're going to look at this Hutchison stretch run of that. Wildcat Red is going to be the number 5 horse and will win the Hutchison pretty easily. CZ will be the number 4 horse running second. Both of those are entered tomorrow. And I'm not sure Wildcat Red is a Kentucky Derby type horse, but I think the mile and a 16th might be within his wheelhouse. And coming off of that nice Hutchison, I thought Wildcat Red maybe a little bit interesting tomorrow. But what were your thoughts?
Well, Seth, I think he's a definite, no pun intended, he's a wild card in there tomorrow because I think he's loose in there tomorrow, stretching out from 7 furlongs. And we've seen time and again this Gulfstream, main track at 2 turns really cater to speed horses. So I didn't pick him tomorrow, but boy, if he turns for home 2 in front, they're going to have a heck of a time to run him down because we've seen that racetrack carry horses before. He's a sprinter, so I'm not sure how far he wants to go. But like you said, this middle distance might be within his scope. Commissioner, I think, is the horse to beat. I was really impressed with his comeback win last time when he beat Top Billing. My concern about him is he's cutting back a little bit. And immediately after that race, I actually sent an email to Jeremy Plante, who I know you have on quite a bit, and I said, boy, this horse, can I get a future book bet on this horse in the Belmont? Because he's just that grinder to me, Seth. He just wears you down, and I thought that's how he ran in his debut. So I know he drew well tomorrow, but I'm just a little concerned about the cutback. So I actually landed on General A-Rod in here, who, just from pretty much a tactical point of view, I think he's going to get first run on Commissioner and definitely top billing. I think he's going to sit a really nice trip off Wildcat Red, who could be vulnerable at the distance. And I think General A-Rod's the one that's going to kind of make that first move off the far turn, and I just kind of think that might do it tomorrow. He's just got a race flow, a tactical advantage.
Yeah, it is no doubt about it. It is a tough race. Let me just also touch on, speaking of tough races, throw you a little curveball here, but how about that 6th race on the card tomorrow? Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah,
Matterhorn, Constitution. Tonalist, to me, is really interesting in Mexico. Yeah. Who'd you see?
Tonalist, for sure, Seth. Yeah. I actually got a little future bet on him after his race last time. I loved his race. Blinkers and Lasix last time, stretching out, and he had 2 or 3 gears in that race, and he's an exciting prospect to me. I think it's onward and upward after this. We'll see him in the Florida Derby, I think.
Yeah, I think this
is great race too. These horses would fit in the Fountain Youth,
Yeah, this is a knockout of an undercard allowance race in there. All right. Also, before we move on to Fairgrounds, you had a little idea in the Canadian Turf tomorrow. Grade 3 event going a mile on the turf. Who'd you see in this one?
Yeah, I had price play in here, Seth, for Abtal for Kieran and the Shadwell guys. He was really impressive visually to me. The figure didn't come up too strong in his last, but he was entered. He was coming off a really, really long layoff, well over a year, and he's kind of just got up in time, and he made his nice sustained wide run, and I think there's a ton of upside to him in a race where, there's some nice horses in here, but I don't really think you have to be scared of anyone in here. So I'm looking for him at a price tomorrow to really jump up and improve.
And just before we move on, you mentioned Kieran, and I'll go back to that 6th race, or I'll go back to the Devona Dale. Just want to toss this in again and remind people. Ron Nicoletti said Penwith and the Devona Dale. He had heard will be first-time Lasix, and that's another Kieran horse.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, Kieran with those Darley horses, first time. Kieran's like 36% first-time Lasix. I would think it's close to 50% on a Darley horse because, that's a huge angle.
And just double check, because Ron wasn't 100% sure, but he'd heard that, so double check on Penwith.
Yeah, it does say it in the form at least.
Okay,
so
all right.
It looks like Ron's right there.
His early PPs didn't, and neither did mine. But if it's out now, you would have to assume that's going to be the case. All right,
Yeah.
and now let's shift out to Fairgrounds and the Risen Star tomorrow. Again, another loaded 3-year-old event with horses like Albano, and I've said it already a couple of times. I'm going to be interested to see if Goldhawk can rebound off of that performance in the Lecomte. He's one I'm interested in. While we talk about this race, however, I'm going to pull up the maiden special from January 30th out at Santa Anita. Just wanted to show, this is a horse that if you read the pundits and their Derby dozens and whatnot, this is a horse that maybe isn't making it into the body of those Derby 10s or Derby dozens, but a lot of pundits are kind of putting this one just under the radar, and that's Hopportunity. We're going to watch the second career start for this one, a mile out at Santa Anita. Hopportunity gets it done as the number 2 horse. He'll be in the Risen Star tomorrow, shipping in for Bob Baffert. But again, a big competitive field. Your thoughts in the Risen Star?
Yeah, I agree with you on Opportunities. He's scary to me. I don't really know what to make of him, but that was his first 2-turn start last time. But boy, he really gets thrown to the wolves tomorrow. It's one heck of a tough spot to face winners first time. I came up with Intense Holiday, who's a horse I've liked for his last few starts, but he really hasn't had any chance. I thought his Remsen was really sneaky good when he closed into those plow horse splits that they set that day. He had no chance, and he had no chance last time in the Holy Bull when, Cairo Prince just blew the race open off the far turn. But I thought he closed nicely and encouraged a little bit. So I think tomorrow, with more speed in there and a longer stretch to work with in a truer, more fair of a racetrack, I think, to me, he's the one that's going to step up tomorrow. And he has to. He's not fast enough yet. But I think he's got a lot of upside. And, of course, I like a lot in here. Like a lot in general. I'm going to play against him tomorrow is Rise Up. I thought his Delta Jackpot win was just simply stunning to end his season last year. And, he's inside speed tomorrow, and that's a pretty troublesome, and he's off the layoff. And, I'm not sure how much he wants to win tomorrow, so I'm going to try to beat him. But to me, he's the most talented horse in the race, and I really look for him going forward to be a legitimate player in these big 3-year-old races.
And going back to Intense Holiday, we talked earlier with Brian Spencer from the Fairgrounds, and I talked about Got Lucky in the Rachel Alexandra having Mike Smith on board for Todd Pletcher. Same scenario with Intense Holiday. It's a Todd Pletcher horse, but they reached out to Mike Smith. That was kind of interesting. And going back to that Rachel Alexandra, what do you think of Ria Antonia tomorrow?
Yeah, you know what, Seth? I actually Got Lucky a lot. I think, going 2 turns. I thought her race in the Demoiselle was really impressive. So to me, she's going to take a lot of beating tomorrow. It would be nice to see Ria Antonia come back and run well because, I think a lot of people, probably myself included, aren't sure what to make of her win in the juvenile fillies. But she certainly ran huge. But to me, she's the kind of horse that you play against to make her prove it one more time.
And I found it surprising, 9-2 on the morning line. I will be very interested to see what the betting public does because I think they may be a little more intrigued in that, although it's not going to shock me if this horse is not a short price, but I think float down from that 9-2 anyway. I will be interested to see which direction they go, however.
Yeah, I think set at 9-2, she's worth a play. I think that would be an overlay to me, but I agree with you. I can't imagine we see that. I would think maybe 5-2, 3-1.
Yeah, that sounds a little more likely. All right, Brian, again, give folks a little bit of a time. You got anything sneaky good that you're hoping for this afternoon that folks can maybe, if they come down, even if they aren't selected as a 25, maybe you can whisper in their ear a little bit this afternoon?
Yes, fast and firm, Seth. That's what I'm sneaky hoping for. You know what? I'm going to try a horse at Aqueduct late in the, let me thumb through here. I've got a couple horses in the 9th race. The Big Deluxe will be kind of a key horse in there. He's logical. But say Mr. Sandman at a big price got the job done for me last time. He steps way up today, but I think he might be in the right spot in terms of race flow. So I'm going to use him in the exotics in race 9 and probably try to sneak him into the pick 4 as well. He'll be a big price, and he'd be the kind that would blow up the ticket for me if I get him home.
Sounds good. And again, just a reminder, the happy hour bankroll this afternoon at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany with Brian Nadeau. Come on down about the middle of the afternoon, 2:30. There will be some randomly selected patrons to participate, and it's going to be a lot of fun down here. Brian, as always, appreciate the visit, and good luck this afternoon.
Thanks, Seth. Talk to you soon. Appreciate it.
All right, Brian Nadeau from horseplayernow.com. A little earlier, Brian Spencer from the Fairgrounds. And we kick things off with the guest with Ron Nicoletti from Gulfstream Park. A jam-packed show because it is a jam-packed weekend. A lot of good stakes action this weekend all around the country, but particularly Gulfstream and Fairgrounds on this particular weekend. And when we come back next week, we'll be reviewing a lot of this action as well. So I'm going to wrap things up not only for today on Racing Across America, but also for this week. Don't forget, however, a lot of great racing conversation continues right here on the network all weekend long. Handicappers Report at 9 a.m. both Saturday and Sunday. Tomorrow at 10 Down the Stretch with Mark Casano. 10 o'clock on Sunday, Loose on the Lead. We will be phoned in from Florida with Steve Bick, but we'll also have some guests as well. So tune in for all that. As far as Racing Across America, we're here every Monday through Friday from 10 until 11 a.m. We'll see you again next Monday morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.